Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to examine how ocean currents affect the climate of coastlines they flow past. Before we get into that, let's just remind ourselves about the definition of climate as well as the factors that affect global climate. Climate is best defined as the general atmospheric conditions over a place over a minimum of 30 years or more. The 5 factors that affect climate are latitude, or distance from the equator, ocean currents, which we are going to examine in this video, distance from the ocean, or continentality, altitude, also known as height above sea level, and relief, or the shape of the land. Ocean currents are giant underwater rivers or conveyor belts of water that flow in the oceans. There are many contributing factors that create these ocean currents, and some of these include the winds, Earth's rotation, the temperature of the water, and the salinity or the salt content of the water. There are 2 categories of ocean currents: warm currents and cold currents. This map of the major global ocean currents shows something quite important that we should take note of. Warm ocean currents originate at the equator and transport warm water south and north to the high latitudes, and cold ocean currents originate at the high latitudes and transport cold water towards the equator. From this map, you can also identify some global climate patterns created by ocean currents. Almost all coastlines where major cold currents flow are dominated by a light brown color that on this map indicates a lack of vegetation. These regions are deserts. Let's look at the effects of ocean currents by examining the effect they create on the coastlines of countries or regions. A perfect example to use here is the Southern African region. Situated to Southern Africa's east coast is the Indian Ocean, and along the west coast you can find the South Atlantic Ocean. Both of these oceans have a massive impact on the climate of Southern Africa. The current flowing through the section of the Indian Ocean that borders Southern Africa is the warm Agulhas current. This current moderates the east coast temperatures as it provides a constant flow of warm water from the equator, which leads to lots of evaporation occurring off this current. As a result of this, places along the east coast like Durban have humid summers with lots of rainfall. As you can see from these pictures, Southern Africa's east coast also has a lot of green vegetation. This picture shows the Kranskloof Nature Reserve, and you can see the densely packed trees and greenery everywhere. George, which is another town along the east coast, is well known for its beautiful green scenery, which it can also attribute to the warm Agulhas current. The current flowing in the South Atlantic Ocean is the cold Benguela current. This current brings cold water from the South Pole, and due to the cold temperatures of the water, very little evaporation occurs along this coastline, and the climate is extremely dry throughout the entire year. The west coast of Southern Africa is dominated by the Namib Desert, which is widely thought to be the oldest desert in the world. Estimates put its age at around 55 million years old. It is also one of the driest deserts in the world, and very few people inhabit it. While the scenery of the Namib lacks the greenery and vegetation, that doesn't make it any less magnificent to look at. The west coast of South America is also dominated by a desert called the Atacama Desert. The west coast of North America contains the Sonoran Desert, and the west coast of Australia sees the early parts of Australia's outback, which is a large series of interconnected deserts. Before we finish the video, let's just summarize what we have learned. Ocean currents are giant underwater rivers that flow in the oceans. There are 2 different types of ocean currents, warm and cold. Warm currents raise average coastal temperatures and make these coasts more humid with more rain, especially in the summer. And finally, cold ocean currents lower the average coastal temperatures, making them extremely dry in the process. Deserts often form along these coasts. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the content educational and entertaining.